Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Wednesday, December 28th, 2022. Welcome to day 708. The Supreme Court temporarily blocked the Biden administration's plan to end a Trump-era immigration policy that was used to quickly expel millions of asylum seekers at the southern border. In November, a federal judge ruled that Title 42 was unlawful and scheduled the policy to expire on December 21st. The Supreme Court, however, paused that ruling, saying the policy would remain in place while a legal challenge by 19 Republican state attorneys general played out. Title 42 has been used to expel about 2.5 million migrants since being implemented in March 2020. Moving on, the January 6th committee released its final report and concluded that Trump criminally engaged in a, quote, multi-part conspiracy, end quote, to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. They also concluded that he failed to stop his supporters from attacking the U.S. Capitol and recommended that Trump be barred from holding office again. The 814-page report read, quote, the central cause of January 6th was one man, former President Donald Trump, who many others followed. None of the events of January 6th would have happened without him, end quote. The release of the full report comes 3 days after the committee referred Trump to the DOJ for potential prosecution for inciting an insurrection, conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of an act of Congress, and another federal crime. Over the course of its 18-month investigation, the panel interviewed more than 1,000 witnesses and reviewed more than 1 million pages of documents, all of which were obtained after issuing more than 100 subpoenas. Trump, meanwhile, claimed that the committee did not, quote, produce a single shred of evidence, end quote. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives passed a $1.7 trillion spending bill to fund the federal government through next fall and avert a government shutdown. Overall, the legislation provides $772.5 billion for non-defense discretionary programs, as well as $858 billion in defense funding and nearly $45 billion in assistance to Ukraine. It also overhauls federal election law to prevent another January 6th. Biden is expected to sign the measure over the coming days. Moving on, millions of Americans will lose Medicaid coverage starting in April after the omnibus spending bill changed the healthcare program's enrollment rules. An estimated 1 in 5 people currently in the program will lose their Medicaid coverage, roughly 15 to 18 million people in total. When the Trump administration first declared the coronavirus pandemic a public health emergency, it barred states from kicking people off of Medicaid, and states agreed to pause beneficiaries' eligibility verifications under the 2020 COVID-19 relief bill. As a result, enrollment in Medicaid swelled by 20 million to nearly 84 million people. The new spending bill would allow states to kick people off Medicaid starting April 1st. The federal government will also wind down the enhanced funding given to states for the added enrollees over the next year. And finally, Texas bussed about 130 migrants to Vice President Kamala Harris's residence in D.C. on Christmas Eve in 18-degree weather, the coldest Christmas Eve on record for Washington. The 3 buses, which included babies and young children, were chartered by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Since April, Abbott's office has bussed more than 15,000 people to Washington, D.C., New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia. The White House accused Abbott of having, quote, abandoned children on the side of the road in below-freezing temperatures on Christmas Eve without coordinating with any federal or local authorities, end quote, calling it a, quote, cruel, dangerous, and shameful stunt. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.